Oh, we gotta go this way, huh?
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Hey there.
Look at
Can
this
you hear me?
professional set here, yeah?
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I didn't know if you wanted me to do the old AirPod deal or not.
Oh, no, we're not that advanced here in the
Nice.
Rock household.
Nice. What's up, Rock?
Not much. How are you doing? You're in Jersey, right?
I am in Jersey.
What's been going on at the Feinsand household?
Let's see. Not much. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Some movie watching. A lot of card playing. A little bit of baseball writing. You know, when you find something to write, and a lot of basketball shooting outside as well.
There you go.
On the nice days, anyway.
The boys are okay?
The boys are good. Boys are good. They started their, they're both going to school from home right now. Thankfully, not asking me to do too much with their math because I don't know how to do any of it. I've had to edit a few essays, which that I'm still qualified to do. But they're doing all right, and everybody's just sort of just getting by like everybody else.
Brendan Cuddy already chiming in. A lot of Penny Marshall classics.
Let's see. I don't think we've watched any yet this quarantine period, but they've seen Big. They've seen A League of Their Own, so they're getting well versed on the Penny Marshall classics.
So you've been around baseball for a very long time. You covered the Yankees for a while. You're with MLB.com now. What do you think is going to happen this season? What does your gut tell you how this is going to unfold?
Man, I have no idea. I can't even try to guess because I just don't know. The optimist in me says that, this will all be under control soon and they can get back to spring training. I know Mark Shapiro from the Blue Jays said he thought it would be, 4 weeks they would need for players to get back into shape and play some exhibition games before they can get going. So, I have no idea what a timetable could even look like, but I am certainly staying optimistic with everybody else that we can have some baseball get back here before too long because I don't know what to do with myself, really.
Right? It's so weird this time of year. We're usually going 120 miles an hour, and now it just kind of stopped. But that's everyone in the nation and really in the world that has been affected by this. There hasn't been anyone really that hasn't been impacted in some way, shape, or form by this coronavirus. So we hope everybody's staying safe out there, practicing social distancing, staying home if you could. Have you enjoyed more time at home, or are you just raring to get going a little bit?
It's a loaded question, Mary.
Is Dina watching? That's the first question now.
I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's been nice to spend time at home, and we've been doing a lot of family activities that we don't normally have time to do this time of year. But it's certainly part of me would love to be getting ready for opening day on Thursday as well. Just because that's sort of what I do and what we're all used to. And, it was weird cutting spring training short by a week and, not getting to do everything I had hoped to do in spring training. But, I got to go to Tampa. I got to see you and my other Yankee friends. So at least that was a plus before we all had to flee for our respective homes. But, I think like everybody, I'd rather get back to normal and know that this pandemic was no longer threatening our entire world.
Crazy. It's just crazy, everything that's going on right now. There was a little bit of baseball news today. We haven't had a lot of it over the last week, but big hit for the Mets. Noah Syndergaard. If baseball does come back, he's out. Tommy John surgery. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, his numbers this spring were great. I hadn't really heard much about, him having arm problems. Of course, I never made it to Port St. Lucie. I never got to that side of the state. But you looked at his numbers from the spring and everything that you'd heard about him, there was no reason to think he was hurt at all. And the fact that he's going under the knife for Tommy John is really a huge hit for the Mets whenever baseball comes back. I mean, you're talking about their number 2 starter. For him, you're talking about a guy who's arbitration eligible for one more year after this year. He's looking at free agency in, 18 months. He's not going to get back from this surgery for 12 to 14 most likely. So, he's going to basically have, a little more than a half a season to pitch himself to a free agent contract. And, of course, that'll be going into the next CBA negotiation as well. So, That could be a whole other issue for some of these guys to worry about when they go to free agency. But yeah, huge hit for the Mets. And for however many games baseball plays this year, the Mets were looking forward to having 1 out of every 5 of those started by Noah Syndergaard. That's for sure.
And the time aspect of it, as far as service time, that is going to be really interesting. How the players union and the Players Association and the and Major League Baseball comes to a conclusion about what the right thing is to do in that regard, because it's clear that there is probably not going to be a 162 game season, but if it's an 81 game season, does that count as a full year because of the circumstances, or what do they do?
I don't know what they do. They're still in negotiations about that. That's one of the things. Service time is one of the sort of touchiest subjects in that negotiation between the league and the Player Association, and that's what they're going to have to, that's one of the major things they're trying to figure out. That what's going to happen with the amateur draft. There are a lot of issues in terms of, the service time impacts, the arbitration system and free agency and everything else. So, that's probably the biggest issue that they have to figure out. But until they have some sense of how many games that's going to be, I don't know how you even figure it out. It's just on a straight prorated basis, or I don't know. I mean, these are decisions that are being made. Here's my pay grade. Here's the next, probably way up here is where the people who are making these decisions are.
Now, somebody said, don't touch your face with your hands. They were talking about me, but I washed my hands and I'm in my home. I didn't go anywhere. So
I've washed my hands a lot, and yeah, I know I have occasional, like that or whatever, but I wash my hands a lot. So Meredith, what's your song? Do you have a song you sing when you wash your hands to make sure you go 20 seconds?
No, I just count to 20. I know.
Oh, okay.
I should really start doing a song though, right?
So one of my sons sings Happy Birthday twice. I saw a thing that if you sing the first 3 verses of Baby Shark, that knocks out your 20 seconds. So I've been doing that. Baby Shark, Daddy Shark, Mommy Shark. And by the time you get to the end of Mommy Shark, you're good to go with your 20 seconds. So, yeah, a lot of baby sharks in the hand washing area in my house.
And then that's never getting out of your head for the rest of the day. So.
Correct. Yeah. But it's never too far from my head anyway. So, which is odd because my kids are 11 and 14, and yet Baby Shark is just always in my head. I don't know why.
Now, how many years were you on the actual beat covering the Yankees?
16, 2001 to 2006. For MLB.com, and then 2007 to 2016 with the New York Daily News.
Most memorable moment for you on the beat?
That I can talk about here?
I mean, either. This is a very liberal platform.
This is Instagram. We can do whatever we want, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's funny. There have been a lot of people on Twitter the last week or so since everybody's been going stir crazy in their house about best games they ever covered, best this, best that. And I think the best game I ever covered, the most memorable baseball moment I ever had on this beat was Game 7 of 2003, the Aaron Boone game. It was just insane. And for somebody who had been grown up in New York, my dad grew up a couple blocks from Yankee Stadium. So I used to go to the stadium as a kid. So the old stadium had a real, sort of meaning to me.
Yeah.
I've never heard it that loud. We were sitting in the press box when Boone hits that home run, and I thought the whole place was just going to just crater beneath me because it was shaking like I've never felt a stadium shake before. So I would have to say the Boone home run, everything that went into that game with Pedro and Giambi hit a couple home runs, and Matsui's big hit, and Posada's big hit, and Mariano and Mussina. It was just an incredible game, start to finish, and to finish with a walk-off home run to win the pennant was pretty outlandish. It was it was one of those things you can only write in Hollywood, but we actually watched it happen. So I would say that's probably the most memorable game I saw.
Martin Kim just joined. I did a fan chat yesterday, and he and his whole family jumped on it. He, his brother, and his dad are all really big fans. So thanks for joining again, guys. I'm so excited about it. You're my favorite.
That's my so I have this Boston University. I went to BU. That's my buddy who's typing in with damn Grady Little. So some Red Sox fans checking in on your chat tonight.
There you go. During your tenure, who was your favorite player to cover? Do you have a favorite?
Well, favorite player to cover, like as in to watch, or favorite player to interview are probably two different things. Favorite player just to like BS with and chat. Jason Giambi was just a classic. I mean, he was just a great guy. You could talk about anything. He was just a fun-loving guy. I've got a few of those. Nick Swisher falls into that category as well. I love Johnny Damon. In terms of watching, I always loved watching Mike Mussina pitch. And it wasn't going out there with the sort of raw power that a Clemens had, or CC in his early days with the Yankees. But Mussina was there. He was already, he was about 30 or so when he signed there, and he was not a huge power pitcher. He had a good fastball, but watching him go out there with the arsenal he had, and if something wasn't working that day, and you'd watch him make the adjustment, and he'd grind his way through. I loved watching Mussina pitch, and then I loved going into the clubhouse afterwards and hearing him talk about it, because he could really analyze what he was doing. I think David Cohn was probably the same way. I missed Coney by a year in terms of covering. He was with the Red Sox when I first started that '01 season, and I've gotten to know him obviously at the ballpark through his time with Yes. But I really always loved watching Mussina pitch.
Who was the most difficult guy to deal with over the years?
Got a few of those. Kevin Brown was a really difficult guy to deal with. He lived up to his reputation as being kind of a grumpy, growly guy. Kenny Lofton wasn't the easiest guy in the world to deal with, because I think he got to New York and immediately was on the defensive about, coming in, and was he going to play center field? What was going to happen with Bertie Williams? So he wasn't real easy to deal with. Tony Womack was a little bit aloof. He asked for number 5. Couldn't understand why he couldn't wear number 5 with the Yankees. He was kind of interesting. A lot of people talk about Randy Johnson. I saw somebody just brought him up. Randy was difficult at times, but there were also times where you would go talk to Randy Johnson, and he was engaging. And if you got him talking about something that he wanted to talk about, he was great. And hi, Dina. My wife just checked in with a little hello. I think he was not always moody. So if you got Randy on the right day and the right time, he wasn't bad. So I don't put Randy in that list, but Kevin Brown probably tops that list of just the most unpleasant people I had to deal with.
What's the craziest thing you've ever witnessed in a baseball clubhouse?
The Yankees are pretty good about not letting crazy things happen in the clubhouse while we're in there. Yeah. I missed the Jorge Posada El Duque fight by about, 5 minutes. That happened back in the day in the early 2000s. There was a time where BP would close, BP would end, and the clubhouse would open for about, 30 minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes. And sometimes you'd go back in there if there was somebody you needed, but if there wasn't, sometimes you just say, everyone's going to be eating. I'm just going to go get a jump in my work or whatever. So one day, BP closes, BP ends, clubhouse opens, and only a handful of guys go in there. And with about 10 minutes before it was going to close, so probably about 5:50 p.m., Duque and Posada got into a fight. And there were only like 3 reporters in there to witness it. And from that moment forward, everybody was in there. Every minute that the clubhouse was open, you had to be in there. It was always, in case somebody gets into a fight. And now that it actually happened,
yeah.
We all had to play defense to make sure. I didn't witness it, but that was the craziest thing I've heard of happening in a clubhouse. I think if something I witnessed, Sweeney Murdy's told this story, and so have a few other people, so I'm not speaking out of school. I watched Edouard Ramirez cry during an interview. He was at the old stadium. He gave up a grand slam to Mark Teixeira, who was playing, I believe, for the Angels at the time. And we went to talk to Edouard, and a nice kid, nothing. It wasn't like it was a huge thing. It was just he gave up a whole bunch of runs, a big spot. And I asked him, what was going through your mind when you gave up that grand slam? And he just sort of paused, and he turned around, and he grabbed his pants and started wiping his eyes, and starts talking, and you could see that. And I was like, okay, I feel terrible right now. We walked out, and everybody was like, you made Edouard cry. I was like, I didn't do anything. It was a very innocent question. It wasn't like I said, man, you stink. It was nothing like that. But seeing Edouard Ramirez fall apart was a bit odd.
Sometimes guys are a little bit more sensitive than others. Some like to be interviewed more than others. One of, I know, your personal favorites, who you're still very close with, in Nick Swisher, who you had mentioned earlier. He's the same dude in the clubhouse, on the field, away from the field. Have you figured out how he has that much energy? Have you figured that out yet?
No. Swish is, it's funny. When he came to the Yankees in '09, we all sort of started, we talked to him a little bit and trying to get to know him a little bit. And you're sort of like, what's this guy's deal? He's so energetic and yeah, hey, what's up, bro? And all
Like
the
this
time.
can't be real, right? Like this
And
isn't a
and
real
and,
thing.
and I think a lot of his teammates felt the same way. They were like, this guy's trying too hard. It's an act. What's the deal? Like this, let's tone it
Yeah.
down a little bit. And I remember one day he came into the clubhouse. He was in some horrific slump. Actually, we wrote this story, told this story in the book. Um, he was in like an 8 for 80 slump, some horrific slump. And he walks in the clubhouse. I think we're in Texas. And hey, what's up, bro? How's it going? I was like, can I ask you a question? How are you in such a good mood? I said, you're like oh for your last 60. And you come in here. I think you go in 4 for 4 yesterday. He looks at me. He goes, let me ask you a question. If I'm an asshole to everybody today, you gonna guarantee me I get a couple hits? And I said, no. He goes, well, then, why would I do that then? He said, I got a good job. I play for the Yankees. I make a good amount of money. I got a great girlfriend who's now his wife. He's like, my life's pretty good, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get another hit again, so I'm just going to be me. And that sort of told me that this wasn't a guy who, A, took himself too seriously. He knew how good he had it.
Yeah.
But then when you got to know him away from the park, and I know you have as well, you could be in a restaurant with him away from the ballpark, no cameras, no microphones, no anything, and he's the same sort of energetic, crazy person. And I remember one time my kids were talking to him. We were away from the ballpark, and we saw him, and Swisher's doing his thing, and my younger one, he was probably like 6 at the time, comes over to me and goes, Daddy, Swish is crazy. I was like, yes, buddy, he is. You've just gotten your first lesson in Swish, but that's who he is, and God bless him for it.
Yeah, nice dude. He always treats everyone with respect. Just a
And he
lot
wrote
of
the forward to Mission 27, so you got to love him for that.
There you go. Did you enjoy writing Mission 27?
Other than having to work with Hoke, it was great.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Stand that. We love Hope.
No, we had a great time writing it. We really had a great time. Honestly, doing all the research, doing all the interviews was fantastic. It was a team that we both were on the beat for, so we had both lived that whole season. And so going through it again was cool. Going through it again on the interviews with each of these guys was awesome because it was like, reliving what for most of them was their greatest season.
Yeah.
And for many of them was their only World Series. So that was cool. And then sort of digging and getting some stories that we didn't know about. I mean, Hoke and I used to joke with each other. We thought we did a good job covering that team. Turns out we didn't because there was so much that went on that season that we had no idea about. A-Rod's birthday party and, just all sorts of barbecues and things that they were, events that were happening. And it was great. It was really great to dig back in and relive all that and catch up with some of those guys. Everybody on that team was out of baseball from playing except for Sabathia, Gardner, and Robertson. So being able to track down everybody else from that team and catch up with them all and sort of go through the whole process, it was a lot of fun.
What was the one story that you didn't know about that you were like, what? No way. I would have heard about that. Somebody would have told. There's no way that happened.
It has to be A-Rod's birthday. I mean, the entire team has this big party. Kate Hudson, who was his girlfriend at the time, throws this huge party for him the night before his birthday at the mansion they were living in up in Westchester. And it's a big, fancy suits and dresses and Nobu catering and the whole thing. And it ends up devolving into a high school party where they're all jumping in the pool and everybody was wasted. And Phil Hughes said he pitched the next day absolutely hungover. Got through it, but did not feel well. And, we found out later that he also was playing basketball at the party. There was a basketball court there, tried to dunk on Jay-Z and just did not quite happen. Jabba referred to it as the most epic fail of all time. So just hearing everybody talk about this party, I'm like, how did nobody talk? Like the next day or that week when we were around the team in the clubhouse, even the guys who I was really, good with there, nobody ever mentioned it. And I was when I heard about this, I was shocked when I found out that this had happened and the extreme of this party.
Yeah. Did they win the next day? Do you remember?
I'd have to go look. I think they played Oakland. I don't remember if they won or not.
Because I could see it being under wraps. waiting to see what type of performance they churn out
Yeah,
that day, and then if they don't win, like, ooh, we don't want to talk about it because then everybody's going to say we were out
yeah,
fighting. They
maybe,
were,
maybe.
but
They
that,
won 103 games. They won the World Series, so I guess by now they felt pretty safe talking about it.
yeah.
It's funny though. Somebody randomly mentioned it to me. I want to say it might have been Kevin Long, and I said, "Big birthday party." He said, "Oh yeah, it was great. You got to ask this guy about this. Ask this guy about this." He starts telling me all about it, and then from that point forward, we asked every single person that we talked to about that. Every one of them was like, "Oh yeah," and it was like I didn't have to say, yeah, it was at his house. No, they all knew exactly what I was talking about. That was that team. They did a lot of that. So, they had a lot of barbecues and parties, and they really seemed to get along well with each other, and you could see that play out on the field.
Where was your invite?
Good question. I did not have one.
Mine lost in the mail as well. You could still buy Mission 27 on Amazon?
Amazon, I think Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, anywhere you can get books, I think you can still get it.
Sweet. How did it do? Overall, pretty good. I imagine people in New York dying to hear those inside stories. And it came out, last April, right?
It came out last June, first week of June of 2019. Did pretty well. It did pretty well. It was, we were very pleased with it. It was got, a lot of good reception from a lot of people. And, I think Michael Kay gave me the best comment that I heard was that he was around that team the entire season, and he read the book and learned stuff that he didn't know. And that was kind of cool. If somebody like Michael Kay can learn stuff that he didn't know, and he was on the planes, he was on, he was right there front row for the whole thing. Being able to teach Michael a thing or two about that team, I feel like we did a good job.
Kind of cool. Did you have to pay A-Rod to do the Instagram post with the picture of the book?
No, he was all in. I'll tell you this, we were wondering what kind of cooperation we'd get from him. We did a great interview with him, oddly enough, in a van in the streets of New York City. We were supposed to
a van? Like what kind of van? Down by the river? What were you doing?
A big Mercedes Sprinter, one of those big he has the inside, I guess it's like his mobile office or something, I don't know. We were going to meet with him at his building to do this interview, and he said, "What's your guys' schedule look like?" I said, "We're all day. We got all the time you need. Whatever you have for us, we have for you." He said, "All right, let's go down. We're going to go in the van. We're going to head over to Fallon. And we'll talk on the way over there." I said, "You're on Fallon?" He said, "No, Jennifer's on Fallon. She wants me to be there for the segment."
Yeah.
So I look at my watch. I'm like, we're on, I don't know, Park Avenue and 50th Street, somewhere in that Midtown area. I'm like, Fallon's 12 blocks away from here, wherever it was. We were about 12 blocks away. I'm like, we're going to get 8 minutes in this van with him. We had come in to, do an hour interview with him. Yeah. This is ridiculous. So we get the van, the assistant opens up the van. It looks like the inside of a private jet. And we get in, we go over, we get in front of Fallon, in front of 30 Rock, in about 12 minutes, just as I had suspected. Except, thankfully, Jennifer was running late. She was coming from Brooklyn, where she was rehearsing for the VMAs. So we ended up sitting in the van in front of 30 Rock for almost an hour, and he was all into it. He loved it. He was all, look, he always talks about 2009 as being his favorite year, right? He won the World Series. Even though he got busted for PEDs, he had hip surgery, the whole thing. He won the World Series. That's all he wants to talk about. So he was totally into it. And then we ended up getting him again on a conference call. And, so he was into it. He was happy to pose with the book and the whole deal.
How does the departure out of the van go? Is he like, all right, I'm going to meet Jennifer now, and he goes first? Or is he like, get the hell out of my van, enough? And
so
did he offer you anything to drink inside the van? Is there like is this a van that had like a little refrigerator or something, like almost a Winnebago van?
They probably did, but we didn't get it. We didn't get anything like that. But it was funny because when it was over, he gets word from his assistant that Jennifer's about 2 minutes out. So we get, he says, "All right, guys, we'll finish this up on a call." So he gets up, he opens the door, and he walks out, and there's just a swarm of paparazzi because they're all waiting for Jennifer. But they see Alex, and then we walk out of the van kind of behind them, and I heard one of the photographers go, "Who are they?" But paparazzi didn't seem interested in us, so we were able to just walk away. It was great.
That's such a good story, though. That life must just be a little zany. I mean, those two are
I can't
followed
even
around like
imagine. I
crazy.
mean, it's the funny thing about Alex is he's the second most famous person in his relationship,
Yeah,
right?
no
Like
doubt.
that's never been in his life. He's always been sort of the alpha of the relationship, even when he was dating Kate Hudson or whoever. Now he is easily the second most famous person in his relationship. He seems to like it, right?
I asked, who was I talking to the other day? I don't remember. I had somebody else on, and Jack Curry called me. Then Susan texted me. I think it was Ryan Rucco. Then somebody called him or texted him. Who's the last famous or semi-famous person that texted or called you?
Um, Not including Nick Swisher.
You can include him.
Then it would probably be Nick Swisher.
Nick Swisher. Is
Yeah.
he in Ohio now? Ohio,
I think they're in
Florida,
Florida
LA,
right now.
LA,
I
Florida.
think they're in Florida at the moment. Non-baseball division, it would probably be Richard Schiff from The West Wing.
Oh, that's
Big
a
Yankee fan. I've
one.
gotten to know him over the years. We check in with each other every once in a while. It's my favorite show of all time, so I still think it's sort of odd that we've become friendly. Um, but yeah, he's a huge Yankee fan.
That's awesome. Well, there are a lot of them out there. Now, I see some memorabilia and stuff behind you. Do you have one item that is your ultimate prized possession?
Um, One item that's my prized possession, probably. I don't know if you can see it. Let me. This would be it. It's a signed Mickey Mantle baseball card
Oh, wow.
that
That's
I
legit.
got from the one time that I met Mickey Mantle.
Wow.
It was probably 1991, 91 or 92. I was going down to Mickey Mantle's restaurant, and I'd only been there a couple times, but every time I went, I brought the one Mickey Mantle card I had just in case he was there. And one time he was there, and I got him to sign it for me. I got him to sign a ball for my dad.
Wow.
So it's not that it's worth anything because the card is in terrible condition, but this is from the time that I met Mickey Mantle, so I think that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I was going to ask you what the condition was if it was worth it, but I think just his signature on any type of card would be worth a little something.
My second most prized possession is this autographed picture of Sweetie Murdy, just so you know.
That's so good. I haven't checked in with Sweetie yet. Have you heard anything from him? Is he doing all right?
He's doing well. I think he's doing well. He's got a couple kids also, and he's
Yeah.
at home dealing with the same thing we're all dealing with right now.
Have you binge watched any shows?
We have been catching up on some stuff. We are catching up on Homeland. We're just about caught up there. We've been watching a lot of movies with the kids. My kids are 11 and 14, so we're trying to show them a lot of movies that we think they should see. So far in the last week, we watched Top Gun, Major League, Dave. We've probably watched about 5 or 6 movies, but we're trying to slowly but surely get through them. And some comedies, some not. Anchorman we watched. My older son's a huge Office fan, and every time somebody else showed up on screen who has been on The Office, he's like, oh, it's that guy. So yeah, we watched a lot of movies, and I have some old games I want to show my kids as well. Thinking, I know my older son is definitely having a sports withdrawal problem, so maybe some old Yankee games or some old Islanders games, stuff like that, just to sort of give him some sports to watch that he's never seen before, even though he's going to know how they end.
Yeah. When I talked to Aaron Boone the other day, he was actually watching a Yankees classic in his office. I just miss baseball. So
I got a call come in. I didn't hear what you said there.
how dare they? No, I said when I spoke to Aaron Boone the other day, he was watching Yankee classics in his office. So he's missing baseball too. We all are.
Well, the one good thing, if you're part of the Yankees, right, if you're Aaron Boone or anybody involved with the Yankees, if you watch Yankees classics, at least they're always going to win. So, right, has there ever been a Yankees classics where they lose?
Maybe this is the time that it happens. There's one in production right now where at the end of it they lose. I doubt it. We're not trying to make people more upset during this time. We're trying to
right. I
calm
mean,
them down at SBS Network.
they've won enough that you have enough to choose from, right? I mean, that's a pretty
I
easy
think
one.
they can work with it. Have you heard of this show? People are saying watch Tiger King, I think it's called, about Joe Exotic on Netflix.
I've heard about it, but I have not watched.
I feel like I can't even talk about it without putting this coat on. All right, so let me set the stage for you.
Wow, I'm intrigued already.
So let me set the stage for you. I only watched one episode, but I'm like, man, I have to do an Insta Live at 9:05. I got to go right into another episode. This is absolute lunacy. This guy is nuts. But it's about exotic cats in the U.S. and a couple different people that have them, and some people that have sanctuaries that are pitting other sanctuaries against them, and it's somebody just got their arm ripped off. I'm like, what is happening? I don't know. But it's a lot. It's a lot.
I'm down for a lot. I've watched some shows that are pretty out there, so that's I'm good with that. I'll give it a try.
You should check it out. The first episode, you'll be like,
that coat alone has made me want to watch, right?
Right? I was watching it and I'm like, oh my God, I need to go find my coat. I feel like I should be wearing this right now. But I just started episode 2, and that's when the lady's arm got ripped off. Like, and she just was like, yeah, amputated. I want to go back to work. I was like, what? It's a lot. Joe Exotic.
It sounds like a lot. It sounds like a Tarantino-esque kind of show.
Yeah, well, not quite. It's just it's interesting. Is all I will say. All I will say. I highly recommend that. If there's one food during the quarantine, hopefully you're staying in unless you have to go out, that you couldn't live without, what would it be?
Hard sourdough pretzels. Those big crunchy like giant pretzels. Love those.
Anything else that you got that you normally don't get, but figured, hey, I might be home a while?
We got some Oreos and some cookies that we don't usually keep a whole lot of that in the house, but we've brought some of that stuff in. No, I mean the problem is when you're stuck in the house like this. Thankfully, my wife knows how to cook, so she's been able to whip up some pretty good dinners still, and I've been going out to the market about once a week just to load up for the week.
Yeah.
Other than that, trying to mostly stay in. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting week so far, but about 10 days, I guess, or 11 days. So it's not, hopefully it will go away at some point. We can all resume our lives and you and I can dine at Shepherd's Place together.
That would be great. If you had to put together, whether they're on the beat now or they were on the beat when you were there, a beat all-star team for dinner, party of 4, who would be your guests?
Party of 4.
So you're included, so 3 people.
Wow. I mean, you're putting me on
all the ones that you don't say.
You're putting me on the spot here. I mean, I have to think of who's going to be angry if I don't put them on here, right? All right, well, I'm going to take the cheap way out and just go with beat people, because I don't look at like Susan and John or even you as being beat people. So I'm going to go with like writers / Sweeney, basically. I'm going to go with Sweeney, Tyler Kepner, and Pete Abraham. I'm going to go with my old school crew. The old crew. Mostly because I haven't had dinner with those guys in a long time, so I think that would be fun. The problem was that, and you can attest to this because you were around for this portion of the beat, right? The last 6, 7 years, 5 years that I was on the beat, you, Chad Jennings, Dan Barbarisi, Mark Feinsand, Wally Matthews, Andy McCullough, there was a wide-ranging group, and we rarely had dinners of 4 because we usually had dinners of 6, 8, 10, and it was just nonstop laughs.
Yeah.
So I think, I will say, if you're going to limit me to the entire Yankee universe, Sterling has to be at the dinner because nothing is funnier than dinner with John Sterling.
So good.
It's so good. I had dinner in Tampa a few weeks ago with John, Brian Hoke, and Pete Caldera. That was my first night in Tampa. It was the night before I saw you, and it's hilarious. I mean,
you want it to last forever because it's just so good.
John is just his own little universe, and it's just a pleasure to be around him, especially away from the ballpark where he's just, you get a cocktail or two on the table and let it fly.
Did he bring up any interesting topics that night? Because he usually has some type of a theme. Something's bothering him, or something's on his mind, or a current event that may be happening.
I think that was the day that he heard about coronavirus. So he was kind of asking us, what do we think about this whole thing? And so that was certainly an interesting topic. And Pete had just come back from doing a night at the Carnegie Club, so that was a big topic of conversation. And then, of course, every once in a while, Brian will just chime in with his sterling impression that John doesn't even hear him do, which is just outstanding to have John at the table and Brian chiming in with the occasional, it's great. It's great. So, yeah, there was, but yeah, I think it was the day John heard about coronavirus. So he was curious about that whole thing.
What's going on with this virus everyone's talking about?
I think that was his exact opening question, Meredith.
So you traveled a lot, obviously. I travel a lot. As the years go on, you find more and more restaurants or bars that are open late that after a game you can check out. Top 3 restaurants that if you were still traveling you would hit, and top 3 hangout spots. Like bars.
Restaurants is probably pretty easy for me. Seattle, Wild Ginger.
I went there.
My favorite restaurant in America. It's outstanding. It's like Asian fusion. Sweeney once referred to it as P.F. Chang's on steroids. It's the best place. Wild Ginger in Seattle. Joe's Kansas City Barbecue in KC, the one that's in the gas station.
Yeah.
Just unbelievably good. The third one, I'm trying to think of our road stops, our frequent road stops. Tampa was a lot of chains. I don't know that there was anywhere in Tampa that I would necessarily put on that list. Boston, Toronto, Chicago. Chicago had a really good breakfast spot called Wildberry that I really liked. It was one of those like good brunchy places that had, sweet and savory and the whole thing. I get, I have to, number 3 is probably In-N-Out Burger in any West Coast spot that we hit. Cause when you're from the East Coast and you like In-N-Out, that's a problem. So I would say In-N-Out might be my number 3, but the Wildberry in Chicago are pretty strong. In terms of night hangout spots, Bar Louie in Tampa was always a huge spot for us. They were open late at the International Plaza. And we used to stay at the International Plaza, a lot of us. So it was a great post-game spot to hit because then you could walk back to your room, didn't have to worry about driving. What's the name of the place in Baltimore? I'm completely blanking. That we used to go.
Oh, James Joyce.
James Joyce. Great late night spot for after a game at Camden Yards. And my third one, Boston closes too early. That's the problem with Boston. Is the Yankee Red Sox games, you never get out of there until 1:30. So that was usually a bad spot. Chicago, anywhere. I mean, the whole city's open late. The Lodge was usually a pretty good late night hangout in Chicago. So maybe the Lodge.
I like the Lodge. It has I went there in my NBA days. So it was kind of nice to go. I go probably once a year if we're in Chicago. Just, see the lay of the land, see if anything changed. It never has.
Yeah,
still. But
just check back in. You never know.
Yeah,
I see somebody mention Miss Shirley's in Baltimore. That's another good, really good brunch spot as well. Good job by Jay Burt.
I have been there before. I took my parents there once. Bar Louie, were you there the time that my flip-flop broke walking to the bathroom? Right?
You wore my shoe to the bathroom after that.
That's what I thought. So the floor there is so gross and sticky that I'm walking to the bathroom and I just had a pair of like Havaianas or something basic on, not a real high-end flip-flop by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm walking and I just walk right out of the flip-flop. It's stuck to the floor and my foot hits the nasty floor. So that anytime I had to use the restroom, I had to use your shoes.
She walked over to me. She goes, "Can I have like Docksiders on, and I have size 13 feet." So she was like, "Oh, I know I can wear your shoes. They're going to be fine for me." She walked over and said, "Can I borrow your shoes?" I was like, "Where exactly do you want to take them?" She explained to me what happened with the flip-flop situation, and I was nice enough to lend her the shoes every time she needed to go to the restroom.
Like,
And the fact that you borrowed them 2 or 3 times just tells me one thing, and that we were there too long.
We were there pretty late, right? I just remember going up and being like, this might sound a little weird, but have a bit of a situation.
That's the one thing about being friends with you, Meredith. Really, nothing sounds too weird at this point, right?
What's your favorite ridiculous story that I've told you? Or
Even on Instagram, I'm not sure I can go there. No.
Yeah, no, they're not bad, but I'm trying to think.
They're not bad, but I don't know what you'd want me to tell here and what you wouldn't. So I think we're all just better off if
we'll just leave it at that.
we just keep it in the vault, right?
Yeah, I live an interesting life is what I'll tell people. You would always say, and some people on the beat would always say, only you would that happen to.
No question. You have given us more stories that we just call, rockisms, because you're the only one who could possibly tell these stories, and we believe them because there's no question that all of these are true. So, yeah, The Rock has been a good source of entertainment for us through the years.
I miss the old beat, the days of you and Danimal, Barbarisi, and Jennings. That was a good crew. McCullough. Remember, you were still there. Yeah, you were there Mo final year. We had a friend, I will not reveal his name, but we all went out in Minnesota one night for a couple of beverages, and that friend, I believe, woke up with a bar stool in his hotel room. He had taken from the bar.
Yeah. That was the same trip where we had the big beat lunch with Mariano Rivera, his final season. Yeah. And I believe it was the same, same writer who didn't make it to the lunch because maybe it was that same day. Yeah. It was a little hungover.
He had to focus on returning that bar stool and not dining.
You want to know where else was an underrated city? And we didn't go there very much, but every time we went there, I had a really good time. It was Milwaukee.
Oh, we were supposed to go there this year, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah,
I remember
a sleeper city.
What's that?
I said it is a sleeper city, and people are so nice there.
Total sleeper city, and good bars and good restaurants, and I really liked Milwaukee. It was one of those places. I think I went there 3 times in 16 years, and we always had a good time. And I remember Chad and Hoke and Barbarisi and I went out one night and found this little hole-in-the-wall bar. Bartender made these great cocktails and great burgers, and it was just we were sitting there going, "Where's this place been all our lives? Why don't they have this place in Tampa or something?" But Milwaukee was a good, solid, underrated spot, I think.
I thought of another one too. That was just an absolute mess of a place. The Grand Falloon in Kansas City.
Oh, that has to be on our. You know what? I get rid of the Lodge. Grand Falloon is our number 3 on the favorite post-game hangouts. That place was a complete mess every time we were there, and every time we were there, we left with another great story. So, yeah, no, Grand Falloon in Kansas City in the Country Club Plaza absolutely gets on that top 3 list with Bar Louie. Yeah, no question about it.
Anything else on your mind before we get going tonight?
How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm staying busy. I'm doing some stuff for Yes Network, obviously from my condo. And I'm trying to stay in as much as possible. Every time I go out, I'm convinced I'm going to get sick. I'm one of those people. So I'm like, I should probably just stay in. So like you, once a week, I'll go to the market. I'll get some fresh produce that can last me for the full week. I've been trying to go outside a little bit to take some walks. As you know, I have the balcony here. So I think tomorrow I might do yoga on the balcony. We'll see how that goes. And I've just been doing some little workouts here and trying to stay busy. I had a whole to-do list, and I have done none of those things.
I just got into the Peloton thing. That's my new trying to get into some, drop a few, as I've always tried to do in my life. But my wife has a Peloton. She's been pushing me to try to do it for about 2 years, and I finally have given in. I ordered a pair of shoes a few weeks ago, and I started getting on there. So that's been my new, especially now when you can't actually go outside. I mean, go to a gym or go anywhere else. Trying to make that my new workout.
I've thought about making an impulse buy, but I'm sure they're so back ordered right now because everybody is probably thinking the same thing. oh, I'll just get a Peloton. And I don't know what their delivery would be this time of the
Right.
year. What's going on? I'm like, maybe I'll do that. But I didn't pull the trigger on that. Maybe I should. Then I don't have to go outside. I can put that on the balcony. I can take the chairs in, put the Peloton on the balcony, and it's like I'm cycling outside.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, we have it, right next to a window, and keep the window open. Right now, it's still really nice weather up here. It's not super hot. You get a little breeze coming in, and it's been look out the window, and you're doing your bicycle thing, and it's been nice. I like that.
I think people are either going to come out of this in incredible shape, those that are staying home and doing their at-home workouts, or the other way. It's going to be one of two.
Right.
People are going to be like,
There's going to be no in
"Whoa!"
between. Either you've been really keeping yourself in shape, or you've just been eating everything in sight,
Yeah.
and then, or at least till you can get back to the store to buy more. But yeah, it's been an interesting 10 days, and I'm sure it'll be another interesting 10 or
Who knows?
who knows.
Who knows? Well, if you're ever bored, please join me again. Tell the family I said hello, and stay safe out there, my friend.
Anytime, Rock. You know that.
I'll see you later. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.